The hall was perfect, filled with elegant guests, all eagerly awaiting the moment of "I do." The CEO and his bride stood at the altar, exchanging passionate glances when the unexpected happened. Suddenly, three small figures appeared in the middle of the crowd, walking with surprising confidence. Their eyes shone with a certainty no one could understand. They stopped right in front of the CEO, looked directly at him, and, in unison, said, "Daddy!" A cold silence swept through the room. The air seemed to vanish. The bride's face turned pale, the CEO's mother froze, and the guests didn't know where to look. In that instant, everything changed. A secret kept for years was about to be revealed, and no one would leave that hall the same. James Anderson was a promising young man, gifted with an extraordinary intelligence and a bright future in the business world. As the CEO of a major company, his image was flawless in the eyes of everyone, especially his mother, Margaret. A strong and ambitious woman, Margaret had always done everything to protect the Anderson family name and ensure that nothing could tarnish their reputation. For her, her son's success was everything. Years earlier, when James was still a young man full of dreams, he had a brief but intense relationship with a young woman named Emily Parker. Emily was sweet, hard-working, and full of hope, even while facing hardships in her life. Not long after, she discovered she was pregnant, not with one baby, but with triplets. The news frightened her, but it also gave her a new kind of strength. Emily hoped James would take responsibility, but her life took an unexpected turn when Margaret appeared. The Anderson family matriarch made Emily an irresistible offer. She would provide financial support for her and the children, as long as they kept the triplets' existence a secret. Margaret didn't want anything to jeopardize her son's or the family's image. Desperate and with few options, Emily accepted the deal. She buried her secret deep in her heart, knowing it meant giving up on James being part of their children's lives. She faced the pregnancy alone, fearful of the future, but determined to protect her little ones at all costs. The promise of silence was harsh, but it seemed like the only way out. For the next 7 years, Emily raised the triplets with love and dedication. Despite financial and emotional struggles, she never let them lack affection or support. They grew up hearing stories about a generous, loving father, someone who would one day come to meet them. That dream was what kept them strong. Meanwhile, James relentlessly pursued his path in the corporate world. He was about to marry Claire, a beautiful and charming woman, handpicked by his mother to further consolidate their empire. Claire had Margaret's full approval, who saw her as the perfect wife for her son and a symbol of status for the Anderson family. James had no idea his past hid such a deep truth. At every event, in every negotiation, he was far removed from the lives of the children he didn't even know existed. The distance between him and Emily wasn't just physical, it was emotional and invisible, upheld by a silence imposed by his mother. The secret seemed impossible to undo. Margaret, for her part, remained watchful. She made sure to control every loose end, ensuring nothing could threaten her son's stability. To her, revealing the existence of the triplets would be a disaster that could destroy years of work and effort. She was willing to do whatever it took to protect her plan, even manipulate Claire and James. Emily, tired of waiting, felt the truth had to come out. The promise she had made to Margaret had become a prison for her and the children. The triplets deserved to know their father and have a better life. She could no longer bear the thought of hiding this part of her story, even if it caused an earthquake in the Anderson family. Behind the perfect image of the upcoming wedding, Emily's feelings were a whirlwind. She knew her decision would change everything, for better or worse. Her children were growing, and at any moment, they might tire of living in the shadow of the secret. She had to act, for them and for herself. Meanwhile, Claire, the bride-to-be, was preparing to take on her role in the Anderson family. Her perfect smile hid intentions no one suspected. She was seen as the ideal woman, but her true face remained a mystery to everyone, especially James. What no one knew was that Claire, too, kept her own secrets. The wedding day was drawing near, and the invisible tension between past and present grew with each passing moment. James focused on the details of the ceremony, unaware of the pieces moving silently around him. Emily, on the other hand, felt the weight of the truth building inside her, ready to explode. That very night, Emily decided she would remain silent no longer. The triplets needed to meet their father, no matter what happened afterwards. She knew she might face rejection, pain, and perhaps even humiliation, but her love for her children outweighed everything. The time for revelation had come. Margaret, meanwhile, felt the risk rising. Everything she had built was about to be threatened. Her influence over Claire and James might not be enough to contain what was coming. The power game was about to change drastically, and no one yet knew who would come out on top. James remained oblivious, living his days in anticipation of the perfect wedding. Little did he know that in just a few hours, his entire life would be turned upside down by something he never imagined existed. The hidden past was about to explode before his eyes, changing everything forever. And so, on that night full of promises and appearances, a silent storm brewed on the Anderson family's horizon. A secret kept for years was about to be revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again.
Claire Matthews was the perfect bride in everyone's eyes. Elegant, charming, and always smiling, she could win over anyone with her sweet and gentle demeanor. But behind that angelic smile, she hid very dark plans. Claire wasn't there for love alone. She had a goal: to take control of James Anderson's fortune. From the start, Claire had the full and unwavering support of Margaret, the CEO's mother. Margaret saw her as the ideal wife to consolidate the family business and strengthen their image of success. Little did she know she was being used. In truth, Claire kept secrets she would never reveal, not even to her powerful mother-in-law. Claire's biggest secret was a lover, with whom she had been having a hidden affair for months. Together, they were planning a multi-million-dollar scheme, a true fraud, to take everything James had worked for. But there was more. Claire had a secret child from a past relationship, someone no one knew about. As the wedding drew closer, Claire worked tirelessly to maintain the facade of the perfect bride. In public, she was devoted and affectionate towards James, but behind the scenes, she carefully plotted every step of her con. Her plan was to use the marriage to gain full access to the Anderson fortune and business empire. Margaret, blinded by vanity and ambition, never suspected the betrayal brewing inside her own home. To her, Claire was a gift sent to seal James's future and protect the Andersons. That blind trust was a weakness Claire knew exactly how to exploit, skillfully moving her pieces into place. Emily, meanwhile, was unaware of these games of power. Her only focus was the truth and her children's rights. She knew that if she came forward, she would face more than rejection. She would face an entire system determined to protect interests greater than justice. Still, she was determined to reveal everything. The triplets were growing stronger and more curious with each passing day. They missed their father and wanted to know who he truly was. Emily knew time was against her. The longer she waited, the greater the risk of losing forever the chance to build a real bond between father and children. Meanwhile, Claire spared no effort to ensure her secret stayed buried. She manipulated those around her, used her charm to divert suspicion, and made sure Margaret continued to believe in her. It was all part of a calculated plan leading up to the wedding day. On the morning of the wedding, Claire went over her strategies one last time, confident everything would go as planned. She knew the moment of the ceremony would be crucial to securing her control over James and his fortune. The plan was perfect, or so she thought. Margaret was radiant and full of expectations. To her, the wedding represented the fulfillment of a dream, the ultimate victory for the Anderson family. She ignored every warning sign that could have exposed Claire's true nature, blinded by her own hunger for power and control. Emily, on the other hand, felt a mix of fear and hope. She knew the wedding would be the stage for her big decision. She prepared the triplets for the moment of revelation, giving them the courage to face the unknown. They had to call James Daddy in front of everyone, no matter what his reaction might be. The atmosphere behind the scenes of the wedding was tense, charged with emotions and secrets. Each person was about to reveal their true self. The curtain was about to rise on the most unexpected act of the story. And then, in the middle of the ceremony, just as everyone expected words of love and vows, the triplets made their shocking entrance. It was a moment that would forever change the fate of the Anderson family and expose the perfect bride and her dark plans. The shock was immediate, and silence fell over the hall. James found himself face to face with the truth, while Claire desperately tried to keep her mask intact. Margaret felt the ground slip from under her feet. From that moment on, nothing would ever be the same. The perfect wedding was only the beginning of a battle that would uncover betrayals, secrets, and the power of true love. And James would have to decide whom to trust and who truly deserved his forgiveness.
The hall froze in silence as the triplets, holding hands, stopped right in front of James Anderson. The curious and confused gazes of the guests turned to those children who, with steady voices full of emotion, spoke for the first time. "Daddy!" James felt his heart race. He couldn't understand what was happening. His world was collapsing in seconds. The bride, Claire, who until then had maintained her composure, turned pale, almost unable to react. His mother, Margaret, stifled a gasp of shock, her hands trembling. Emily, who accompanied her children with a mix of fear and courage, knew this was the decisive moment. The truth, hidden for years, had finally come to light. The triplets had called James by the word they longed for, the father he didn't know he was. Tears began welling in James's eyes, a mix of surprise, doubt, and deep emotion. He looked at those children he had never imagined having, feeling the weight of the past pounding against his soul. But the shock didn't stop there. Claire tried to intervene, attempting to discredit the scene by claiming it was all a lie, a setup. She desperately tried to keep control, but her trembling voice betrayed her nerves. The mask of the perfect wife was starting to crack in front of everyone. Margaret, furious, accused Emily of trying to destroy the family and her son's reputation. The powerful matriarch tried to protect him, but the tension in the room was palpable. The guests, once excited, were now torn between shock and curiosity. Emily did not falter. With a firm voice, she told what had happened years before: the pregnancy, the deal with Margaret, the broken promise. She spoke of the struggle to raise the triplets, of the children's longing to meet their father. The truth hung in the air, inevitable and relentless. James, still stunned, felt a mix of anger, sadness, and confusion. He needed time to process everything, to accept this new reality. The man who had always controlled his life now faced something he could not control. Meanwhile, Claire and her lover, who was watching from the crowd, exchanged worried glances. Their plan to steal the fortune was quickly unraveling. Claire tried to keep her composure, but she knew her charade was hanging by a thread. Margaret felt the ground slipping beneath her. The control she had over her son and the situation was vanishing, and everything she had built was at risk of collapsing. She began to see Emily and the triplets in a new light, as a real threat to her authority. The guests, silent, watched the drama unfold. The ceremony that was supposed to be a celebration had turned into the stage for a shocking and inevitable revelation. The perfect wedding now showed deep, irreparable cracks. James finally looked at Emily with a mix of unanswered questions and an emotion he tried to hold back. He knew he had to listen. He had to understand. This was the beginning of a new story, one he had never imagined living. In the midst of the chaos, the triplets stood firm, holding their mother's hand, waiting for the reaction of the father they had longed for. Their innocence stood in sharp contrast to the heavy tension that filled the hall. They were the living truth in that moment. The ceremony could not go on as before. The truth demanded space, and James would have to decide what to do with this unexpected, complicated gift. His life was changing forever, right before everyone's eyes. And so, amid shocked stares and silent tears, the Anderson family stepped into a new chapter, a chapter where secrets would turn into confrontations and love would have to be rebuilt.
With the revelation of the triplets and the truth laid bare, the wedding descended into chaos. Claire desperately tried to keep her mask of the perfect bride, but the cracks in her plan became more and more evident. Her fake smile began to crumble under the accusing stares and unanswered questions. Claire's lover, who had been hiding among the guests, could no longer remain in the shadows. News of the betrayal and the secret child spread quickly, and the plan to steal James's fortune was on the verge of complete collapse. The facade of the perfect bride was falling apart. Margaret, furious at the situation, saw her control over James and the family slipping through her fingers. The woman who had always manipulated circumstances for her own benefit was now being confronted by those she had once tried to silence. The revelation of the triplets had shaken her authority and power. Meanwhile, James felt a whirlwind of emotions: betrayal, pain, disbelief, and in the middle of it all, an unexpected love began to grow for Emily and the children he had never known. His trust in his bride and his mother began to crumble, making room for new possibilities. Cornered, Claire tried every trick to save herself. She manipulated guests, sought allies, and tried to blame Emily, but no one believed her lies anymore. The wedding that was supposed to fulfill a dream had become a public nightmare for her. Claire's secret child was finally revealed, to the shock and astonishment of all. He was undeniable proof that Claire had lied to and deceived James, making the situation even more untenable. Family and guests were stunned by the magnitude of her betrayal. Margaret, once strong and domineering, felt her empire collapse. The alliance with Claire, which had seemed perfect, turned out to be a trap. The CEO's mother began losing the respect and admiration of both family and society, facing scorn and isolation. Emily, with her courage and dignity, earned the support of many guests. Her sincerity and love for her children touched even the most skeptical hearts. She became the voice of truth on a day marked by lies and betrayal. People began to see who truly deserved their trust. James, torn between past and present, made a bold decision. He chose to face the truth head-on and acknowledge the triplets as his legitimate children. The pain of betrayal would not erase the love that was beginning to blossom for the family he never knew he had. With that decision, James began to cut ties with Claire and Margaret, breaking the control they had over his life. He was determined to rebuild his story on a foundation of truth and genuine love. It was the start of a new era for him and his children. Claire and James's mother were left on the sidelines, powerless to react. Social and familial rejection weighed heavily on them, and their plans quickly unraveled. The house of cards they had built to control everything collapsed before their eyes. The wedding ended abruptly, without vows and without celebration. What should have been a moment of joy became a personal tragedy for James, Claire, and their families. But for James and Emily, it was the beginning of rebuilding a true family. The triplets, though young, felt the impact of that change, but also the love and support they could now receive. Their innocence shined amid the chaos, reminding everyone that love is the most powerful force there is. Moved, James embraced Emily and the children, promising to protect them and never again let lies tear his family apart. It was a moment of redemption and hope, a new chapter for the Andersons. And so, between tears and timid smiles, truth triumphed over lies, and true love began to bloom, while betrayal was left behind. After the storm of revelations, James felt a mixture of relief and hope. He looked at Emily and the triplets, realizing that despite everything, here was the real family he had always wanted. The pain of the past was beginning to give way to the rebuilding of the present. Margaret, isolated and without support, had to face the consequences of her manipulations. Her absolute control had been broken, and the respect she once held in society was gone. The matriarch's fall was harsh but inevitable, proving that power without love is fragile. Claire, unmasked and rejected, saw her plan collapse completely. Without the fortune and status she so craved, she had to face public shame and the scorn of those who once admired her perfection. The mask had fallen, revealing the true face of a woman driven by greed. James, determined to turn the page, poured all his efforts into giving his children the life they deserved. He dedicated himself to being a present father, learning to connect with the children he now called his most precious treasures. The love he felt was genuine and ever-growing. Emily, who had fought alone for years, finally found the support she had always wished for. By James's side, she could build a stable life for the triplets, one filled with love, safety, and respect. Her courage was recognized and admired by all who knew her story. The triplets, though still young, could already feel the difference. For the first time, they had a father by their side to protect and guide them. Their innocence and joy became the force that brought James and Emily even closer, strengthening this new family born from the ashes of the past. James also began to free himself from his mother's hold, learning to make his own decisions. His relationship with Margaret would never be the same, but he understood that this distance was necessary for him to grow and be a better father. The business community was surprised by James's transformation. Many admired his courage in embracing a family that had been hidden until then. His public image changed, taking on a more authentic and human shine. He was more than just a CEO, he was a man with an open heart. Emily received the recognition she deserved, not only as the mother of the triplets, but also as a strong and honorable woman who had faced every adversity with dignity. Her story inspired many who heard about her and her silent struggle. The past of manipulation and lies was left behind, while the future stretched ahead, full of possibilities. James, Emily, and the triplets now had the chance to write a new story, one built on truth, trust, and love. With the support of friends and the few family members who remained by their side, the new Anderson family began to rise again. Each day was a step toward healing old wounds and creating happy memories together. James and Emily finally discovered what truly mattered: unity, respect, and unconditional love. They learned that despite secrets and betrayals, a true family is the one you choose and nurture with your heart. And as the triplets grew, surrounded by affection and protection, James felt that his life had been changed forever. Fate had given him a second chance, and he would not waste it. In the end, the wedding that had almost been a trap became the turning point for a new life. Together, James and Emily built a strong family, leaving behind the shadows of the past. And so, between genuine smiles and tight embraces, the Anderson story was renewed, proving that even after the storm, hope is always reborn. This was the incredible story of the triplets who forever changed the life of CEO James Anderson, a tale of secrets, betrayals, courage, and true love. Who would have thought a perfect wedding could hide so many surprises and twists? If you enjoyed this story and want to follow more emotional and suspense-filled content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Now, we want to hear from you. If you were in James's place, How would you react to discovering you had 3 children you never knew existed? Tell us in the comments. Your opinion is very important for us to keep bringing you the stories you love. See you in the next video.